Well, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Matt Fultz, and I'm the Scholarly Communications Librarian. I'm here today with the library's information session on EndNote 25, Beyond the Basics. One of our other librarians did an overview of the features of EndNote in August last year that can be found on the library's YouTube channel, so please go check that out. And rather than trod on well-worn ground, I'm going to show off some of the other features available in EndNote 25. And while the library subscribes and has information on other citation managers, we will just be focusing on EndNote today. So what are today's objectives? Talk about how to find and download EndNote, the difference between versions from 21 to 25, which many people may use interchangeably, EndNote Web, how to find full text, the online search feature, output styles, and if we have time, syncing and desyncing your library, as well as additional preference settings. So how do we find EndNote? Well, EndNote 25 can be found in a few different places. I'm going to first show off going through the library's resource guides. Here, this screenshot shows the library's homepage, and the red arrow indicates the button for the resource guides. When you select that, you will see the screenshot on the left, which shows 11 different subjects by which the resource guides are categorized. The three arrows show where you can find the link to the citation management resource guide. It's under library services, research assistance, and scholarly communication. And on the right-hand side, you see that screenshot pointing out specifically what citation management software looks like under the scholarly communications tab, but it will look similar in those other places. So once again, from the library's homepage, you can also find access to EndNote 25 through the databases function. You can either select this large button from the homepage, just like resource guides, or as I've indicated in the screenshot, from popular links, that upward ribbon on the top of the homepage, this drop-down menu will appear, and you can also select all databases. These two links will take you to the exact same location. And here that location this is the databases webpage from the library's website. As you can see, I've both highlighted in a box and indicated with red arrows where you can select EndNote, and it will direct you to a web page that'll direct you to the same place where you could also find in research guides. One last thing I'll talk about is if you are on a workstation or PC that is LSU HSC property and managed by IT, you may have access to the company portal app. You can see here on the left-hand side of my screen, or your screen, a screenshot from using the taskbar search function to find the company portal app. And then on the right-hand side, you will see a screenshot of what that looks like. You can either search for it in that top search bar, or there's a left-hand menu where you can also select apps and scroll through them. So that's how you can find EndNote 25. What's the difference between the other most used version of 21 and 25? Well, the shared features are basically like 90% of what people are going to be doing in EndNote. They have the same third-party tool integration, the same reference organizing tools that you can use. You can still collaborate and share in the same fashion. And they also use the add-on Cite While You Write, which should be available for Google Sheets and Microsoft Word, both the local version and the online version. But features that are specific to EndNote 25 are largely its AI-powered tools. You can sort of review key takeaways or a summary of the PDF. You can sort of chat with an AI bot about a PDF. You should be able to translate PDFs. And additionally, there is the Find a Journal tool, but you can also but the one non-AI powered tool, which I want to point out, is that you can directly cite something from a PDF, and it will generate that citation in your document software of choice. So now I'm going to get out of the PowerPoint, and we're going to move into sort of more of the live demo function. One major feature of EndNote that I want to talk about is that there is both a browser and a local version of EndNote. When you initially create an EndNote library locally, they start offline. However, you can sync your offline library or the physical local version to an online library. As you can see here, just under this main top ribbon, you can see it has my LSU HSC email, as well as the last time it's synced, the date and the time usually told in 24-hour time. Next, I really want to just quick show off the web version before we get deeper into the physical version. So this is web.endnote.com. This is the link to see your online library where you will log in with the exact same information to your offline library. While you can have an online library that exists independently of any local library if you choose not to sync, once you do, that synced library and that online library will always be permanently connected until you choose to desync them, which you can generally do by contacting Clarivate or EndNote support, and they can do that on your behalf. So the real functionality with this is it sort of works as like a backup of your primary library. So anytime you would make a change, like uploading new references, emptying your trash, or creating new groups, the other side will update to match the other version. You can also go to myendnoteweb.com, and this is sort of an older legacy way that you can kind of interact with your library online. You can work with your groups, deduplicate, work on the plugin. Like I said, this is a legacy version. I don't really recommend using it, but it does exist if you wanted to look at your library a different way. Now, what I will say is the functionality of the online library is noticeably lesser than the local version. As I said before, this is mostly a way for to have an automatic backup of your library as you're working on it, rather than having to save a copy of your library every time, which you could. So I'm going to go navigate back to my EndNote library here, which is the offline version, which I've synced. And another way to save a backup rather than do that is if you come to this file menu in the top ribbon and you can select compressed library, you can either, we'll say create or create an email. And while I won't show this here, you will select it and it'll be the same process, but then it will automatically open up your PC's or computer's version or preferred email software and automatically start a new email with it as an attachment. So then you can choose to save your library with file or without file attachments. Often this means including links or PDFs. And then you can choose either selected or every reference in your library. If you hit next, you can see it'll automatically redirect and you can choose from where you would like to save it. I might just save it quick here. I'll just hit save. And you will see a file type difference. EndNote library is usually .enl, whereas the compressed library will be saved as .enlx. Okay, so the wonders are doing stuff live. So usually when you save it, it will not crash your EndNote library and it will save that compressed library in that place. So now I want to talk about syncing your library a little bit. If I select the sync dat, you'll see it'll bring up this page where you can see a little bit additional information, like these sync details, the same that they are in this top left corner. Sync status, all changes have been sent. It'll show the local library and your online library, as well as some additional information like sync limits, which are very interesting. You can have up to 1 million references shared. Due to our license, we can have unlimited attachment storage, and then the number of group sets, groups, and tags are all 5,000. See that it's blocking it here, but that's fine. Yeah, 5,000. And group sets are when you make groups of groups, which is something you can do. Additionally, you can see it from, well, you can't see information here, but you can also hit sync, and it'll do automatically resync your library with your online library from this library drop-down menu. So, and one other little thing I like to do in EndNote before we move on to the rest of everything in this left-hand bar, I like this little tabs function. I don't really see people do this a lot. You can always just jump back and forth between different groups, and you can do the same thing with tags you're working on. It's just convenient, I think, sometimes to look at multiple things, especially if you're working on groups or groups of groups or something that may get sort of confusing. It's nice to have all these resources. You can jump back and forth and still have open. So how do you share your library? So if I go to File and I select Share, You can see that as a test, I've already tried sharing my library with a few of my colleagues. And if you had a big long list of people, you could search by email or the name of somebody, and I hit enter, and it would show up there. But additionally, you can select this little gear icon next to someone's name. You can either remove, you can see where it says status pending, they haven't accepted. You can hit remind, and you can even change someone's status from read and write to read only or vice versa. If I wanted to invite more people, I would enter their email here. And as it says, add a comma before adding the next person. And you can even add a message to that email and what permissions they have. You can also share a group. If I come here to this one I've labeled writing resources, I can select share group. And it'll show the exact same menu once it's finished thinking about it. You can search the list of people you've given permissions to, interact with that gear icon to remind, remove, or change their permissions, as well as add new people to being able to read only or read and write in your document. Let's see if it'll think about this anymore. I gave it a sec. It's thinking too long. I'm just going to cancel. It's the exact same as you would see in sharing your library as I just did. Just going to think about it again. Never mind. So moving on, how to find full text of your documents. So if you can either press Control A, or you can either go to Edit. And if you're in your library, select All. I mean, when you select that, or when you press that under Edit, every one of your references in your library or the group you're in are selected. And you'll come to this right-hand side, this little down arrow PDF document button, and you'll hit that. Now we'll go back to this left-hand column and we'll see the find full text is searching. Now we can see several have been found, or one have been found, several have not been found, but that's okay. All we need is one to show off. We'll select this reference, and before where this was empty, you can see now automatically the PDF for this reference has been attached. So if I want to look at the PDF, I can also click and I will select open. And now you can see this is how the PDF is held and rendered inside of EndNote. You can choose to open it outside of EndNote as well, but you won't have that functionality that you can sort of do with it with the AI tools and also the cite while you write. So I have an online document here. I have my EndNote activated. It's connected. So if I come in here and I say just select this, up in the top right corner, there will be this little quotations you can select, and you'll hit that. And so this is how it'll appear in your document, the quoted text, as well as a bibliographic reference underneath. So that can be something useful that you can do. Additionally, there are AI-powered tools that I talked about before, and these will be up here, these little triple sparkles in the top right corner. If you select them, you can see it's generating a key takeaway, and it remembers the last conversation I had with this document. Even though I removed the PDF from my test, it remembers that that I asked an additional question. As I said, you can query the chat bot about the document, and it will continue to answer any questions you have until you are individually satisfied. So it generated, to effectively communicate research findings, authors should present key results concisely, acknowledge limitations, and ensure the introduction and discussion sections are well structured to engage readers. You can see it includes this little note generated from PDF. And after it asks the question, it would take some time to process and say this document does not specifically mention the funding requirements related to scientific writing and publishing. Once again, at the bottom, there's this little disclaimer: AI-generated content, quality may vary, and check for accuracy, as well as the little blue disclaimer. If you selected that, it would open in your browser a little more information about that. Now, usually from this menu, you would also be able to translate a document. Since I have last tested it, that option is no longer available. It sat previously right next to the AI tool. After you would initiate this key takeaway, you could begin a translation of a document. It was quite buggy. It didn't, while it would finish producing a document, I could never get it to actually open the document for me to read and actually look at that translation. And I would note that translating version of record documents and distributing them may have copyright implications that I would recommend against actually doing. But it may be useful in your specific situation if you're just sharing amongst peers. So one other thing you can do is you can import directly from a PDF or a PDF into EndNote 25. You can see I've already pre-selected the PDF as the document type. There are quite a few you can do. I'm going to select PDF. I'm going to hit choose. And then I'm going to go to my little EndNote class file, and I'm going to select this PDF. From there, I will hit import, updating term lists. And then here, imported references. It's created this little file, and it shows the automatically generated reference from the metadata of the document, as well as the file attachment of the PDF itself. Side note, you can also see when you've added citations to a document. It'll appear here on the left-hand side as well. Now, one other little thing I want to show off is that, let's say I want to search certain databases or catalogs for a specific resource, and EndNote 25 has this already plugged in here. So let's say I'm looking for the American Chemical Society's guide to scholarly communication. I'm just going to search the ACS guide and see what it gets me. Let's grab quite a few things. None of them are exactly what I'm looking for, so I'm going to clear my search. You can see you can search by title, year, and author. That's what it automatically allows. But you can also hit plus and select a few other options like author address, keywords, title abstract, etc. And you hit that clear search and it'll automatically go back to those three. But something interesting you can do is if you hit this little plus sign, is you can select different catalogs or databases that you may want to search. And something interesting you can do, if I scroll up a little bit, is you can find Louisiana State University Medical Center's library catalog. I'm going to hit choose. And so now if I search the ACS guide, it'll find me two resources. For an example, I'm going to ingest both. And you can do so by hitting this little plus button on the upper right side. And if we look to the left, it should be added to our recently added. Now, another thing you can do if you found a search from here is you can actually just drag it to where you want to go. So if I have the document selected, I will drag it. Didn't like my drag there. You can select it, throw it either into a group, or you can bring it up to all references where it will get added. Now, I will say duplicating can be a little, it's good for only imported references. Deduplication does not functionally work if it's not an imported record. But if I wanted to go to, library, let's go to edit, select all, and library, and find duplicates. You'll see this menu that appears. You can either select for most complete, newest, or oldest. I usually go with most complete, which will show on this left-hand side. And you can sort of contrast and compare them, similar authors and resource types, different information about them. If you scroll down, this one has more keywords attached, abstract, and additional notes. So let's just say I want to keep this reference. The other one will automatically get thrown into the trash here. But yeah, I can see that now the reference that I prefer to keep is here. I can even just drag and add that to writing resources if I so chose. So like I said, if you're manually entering references, I'd be very careful about deduplication, as when I tested it before, it will not always catch the hand reference. Even if it has the same author, year, and title put in, it will not always catch them. Now, under this library tab, there's a few additional tools I'd kind of like to point out. Before, when we ingested something, you saw a note appear on the screen that said term list. So I want to go here and just kind of show off what term lists are. So every time you ingest a record or reference, I should say a record, whatever, into EndNote, it tracks all the author names you ever have and keeps it in this tiny little list. And that's only for the specific library you're working on. If I made another library, this would not be inherently true. And you can even manually add terms here if you'd like. If I go back, I can do the same thing if I select journals and go to terms. These are all the journal terms, as well as their abbreviations. And if I go to keywords, it will be the same thing. So just like I showed off the keywords in the record, these are all the keywords that have ever been attached to any document, even removed, that has been ingested into this library. So one last little thing I'd like to point out. Journals is sort of interesting because you can, as you can edit these, you can import or export the lists manually. So if you import a list, there's actually kind of these pre-built text files into wherever you've saved EndNote locally onto your computer. So these are term lists mostly for journal titles under specific disciplines, or sometimes term lists, as you might see here, Korean medical terms. If we were to go to these lists specifically, you would see more, but I could select one of these. Let's just say medical, and I would hit open. No additional terms. I've imported most of these already in here, which is probably why that happens. But if I went to Korean medical terms, there you go, 227 terms got added if I did that. So that's sort of an interesting example. And then if I wanted to export a library, I'd one more time go to select all, file, and export. And you see it opens this little menu, and this is just selecting where you want it to go. But something you can do is change the output style. So these are pre-built in just reference or styles that you can use, like Chicago, MLA, Vancouver. But if I wanted to select another style, it brings me to this menu, which is quite large. And you can add other output styles to it. A lot of these are ones that I have either manually imported or were already in here. And you can search, or you can just scroll in this bar. Perhaps I wanted Harvard output. I can select choose, and then here it would say that output style. And you can choose a few different file types as well. I'm not going to actually do that, but I want to show if you go online to EndNote support, you can actually find additional output styles on their knowledge base, and you can search by quite a few. They have over 75, almost 7,600 output styles that you can select from. Most of these are journal specific. Often many journals will have a variation of an already pre-built style. So if I wanted to search LGBT because I'm doing a specific journal, I can see specifically LGBT health. I can select download, and here it'll pop up. This is an EndNote file. So this is the specific of the output style. You can do this with any, not just from the download, but from inside EndNote I can show as well. And you can edit any specific portion of how this output style functions. But we're not going to do that right now. I'm going to hit File. I will hit Save As. And I will say LGBT health's already in there. So I'll just say LGBT health copy. Yeah. And then X. And so if I wanted to then, it's updating automatically. It's nice to have an automatic backup. There we go. So select all, export. I could go to select another style, and in here I should be able to find LGBT health copy. And you can also edit this title name. It looks like I may have gotten rid of it for this specific example. But either way, LGBT health, it's in there. I can choose it, and now it'll export in that manner. There are also, if you go to edit and then go to preferences, This is where you can actually edit a lot of how text is exported or stored as a reference inside of EndNote itself. For instance, change case. It'll always capitalize terms like DNA or USA, but perhaps I always wanted COVID-19 to be capitalized. I could hit add and then apply, and then it would retroactively apply to my library. Display fields are quite interesting. Right now, you can see in the EndNote, it just shows the information here. But if I changed this to ISBN or ISSN and hit apply, you'd see now it shows that information on the record here, which I could just go back to do not display. And then it would go back to normal. Display font, the size of the text in EndNote. It's again duplicates, like I talked about duplicates before. These are the metadata it's checking against other records. The author, year, title, and reference type. You could also select something like DOI or issue or volume. Find full text. So like I said, you can manually add URLs and authentication paths, but you can also go through other means of finding that folder location. So when it saves things like I showed styles and these connections from this online search before, this is just where that information is stored locally on your computer. Formatting, this is pretty simple. Merge duplicates, omit an author, basic stuff. Your library, so when you open EndNote in the first place, you can tell it to open this library, open a specific library you choose, or it'll just open a like plain menu where then you could then open another library from there. PDF handling, so when you ingest a PDF, it'll either ingest however it's already labeled, but you can change that to match either specific metadata from the PDF that you're ingesting, the title of the record, or you can make it custom here, or just don't rename, Also, if you wanted to, you could make a folder where you just deposit all the PDFs in, and every time you open EndNote, it would automatically check that folder and ingest any new PDFs that would be in there. So I could hit enable automatic import, and then I would select a folder from in here to where that it would always search for those. Technically, like an email software almost, EndNote keeps a track of whether a record is read or unread, whether you've interacted with it before. So you can actually change the information for how it displays that and show unread references in bold. So reference types, when you automatically create your own record, there's a default reference type that you can select here. And you can even modify reference types. So it compares you to the generic XML table output. And you can never edit this generic, but you can always edit the journal article. If I wanted to retitle all of these, I absolutely could. And it's true for every single one of these types. And they're all going to be different depending on the specific subtype. So sorting, this is just how it sorts. You can, by author, you can put in specific ways to have it sort a little more smartly. And same with title fields. You can see it'll ignore a, and the if a title begins with that preposition or other short word. Spell check. There are dictionaries and other options you can add. So like spelling options, ignore capitalized words, ignore all caps words. And you can even see the main dictionary language is set to American English. So it's already kind of looking for us spelling. Sync, this is just more sync settings. When you are adding a citation in Word, this is the format of how it generates it. And you can edit that specifically to like, so if I go in here and I say insert citation, you can see as silly because I did it in the middle of the other one. You can see, did it not? Insert citation, please. You can see this is how it looks. So it has those curly brackets. It'll usually insert the author and then the year. But you can change how that actually looks. Term lists, we kind of talk about term lists a little bit. This is As you're inputting a record, it can suggest terms, update lists automatically. We're doing other data entry. And then this is the connection log. This is basically just, you could never really interact with this file and you would be fine. It's just additional information for how EndNote connects to these online searching databases, essentially. And so changing this may affect how you do that. So I wouldn't necessarily recommend doing that. That's largely it for today. I see we were hitting 30 minutes. So I'm going to just wrap it up there and say, thank you. No, I messed it up. Okay. Come on, so close. There we go. Thank you. Here are the QR codes if you'd like to scan them for the presentation feedback form. The QR code on the right is to access the library's Instagram. You can always reach out to the library at reference@lsuhsc.edu or call the desk at 504-568-6100. And you can always email me about specific questions at mfolse3@lsuhsc.edu.